Welcome to Legacy Conversations, a channel where we preserve military memories and history.
Hello, Internet. We are back and we're recording Tony Ballinger. Ballinger. I'm not
Ballinger.
sure. Ballinger.
Ballinger, yeah.
He told me how to say it. Now,
It's a sort of a Germanic, Nordic name.
Ballinger.
Yeah,
Yeah, you see,
that's
man.
it.
I'm wondering now, you were a Rhodesian army officer, but you weren't always an officer. I mean, you must have started as a troop or something. Now, how would these corporals then shout at you? What did they call you?
Well, right from word go, I went to Llewellyn, which is the clearinghouse for the Rhodesian army, where the RLI come along and the people choose you from their units, engineers, armed cars. And I went through a 2 or 3 day selection course and went straight into infantry for the officers course up in Gwella. So I never spent more than 3 days at Llewellyn, passed a very strict, tough pre-selection course, went to Gwella and came out as a looter a few months later. And from there, I went into Foreign. So this is a little background story of my first book, which is called A Walk Against the Stream. The reason I called it A Walk Against the Stream is that there was like a river of change flowing down Africa. And both the Portuguese colonies and then Rhodesia and South Africa were standing against the stream. And then the Portuguese colonies fell, and then it became our turn. And we were walking against the stream of change. And that's why I called it A Walk Against the Stream. And it revolves around my experience in the army based at Victoria Falls. The irony is I arrived back in Africa after a 3-year world tour, working tour with a lovely American girlfriend, and the Rhodesian authorities were very efficient, and I no sooner got back into Rhodesia. I left when it was a peaceful country and I came back when it was war. To my mind, I wanted to settle down and start a life with my American girlfriend. But two weeks in, I got a little brown envelope through the door, and I was called up for my army, and I was absolutely shattered. I couldn't believe this. And so when I told her, she phoned her dad in America, and he said, "Come on back here. I'll give you guys a nice holiday." He was a rich banker. He said, "I'll give you enough money to travel around South Africa and America in a Corvette Stingray, my favorite motor car, 67 flat top." Anyway, I had the call-up paper in my left hand and this offer on the right hand, and I didn't know what to do. In the end, I just went in, did my army. It resulted in us breaking up, and I don't know why, because she was still there 10 years later, but she didn't decide to wait for me for 18 months. So I went, did my officer's course, got into Foreign, was posted to Victoria Falls, and for anybody who just clicks onto Google, it's the most beautiful holiday resort as it was back in the 70s. It had casinos, it had golf courses designed by Gary Player, beautiful hotels, women in bikinis. It was an idyllic place to be posted. And it was a strange call-up for me, because we operated for 2 weeks at a time in the bush, and then we came home for a weekend or a couple of days in the middle of the week to refresh and regroup. And we'd go out to the casinos. I was in my army uniform. Everybody below the rank of sergeant was banned, so we didn't have any opposition from the good-looking troopies. Us sergeants and officers, we could pick the litter with all the women. I was fairly easy on the eye in those days. Didn't take me long to pick up a girl. Before I knew it, I was sleeping at her house on the weekends when I came back from. It was a sort of a surreal environment. To begin with, it was just a holiday, 2 weeks sitting in the bush looking at ticks and buck jumping around and monkeys playing in the trees. But it very rapidly became a very hot war zone. And so my story revolves around my relationship with her and the military incidents that took place. Vic Falls really was like a virgin lying in the middle of the African bush. it was hundreds of miles from any other support. And to the west, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, there was nothing but bush, bit of Southwest Africa. And to the east, all the way to the Indian Ocean, it was just bush. We were in the middle of nowhere. And so it generated this sense of being in the South African laager, where the wagons had been pulled into a circle and we were trapped in this little island of self-defense. And we had lots of punch-ups with the Zambian army. They used to take great delight in shooting at the tourist plane that flew over with their 12.7s and SAM-7 missiles, one of which went off course and burnt down a multi-million-dollar hotel. And so it was this life, this tug of, is my girlfriend going to go when things get tough? And then, you know, what's going on? What's the end game here? So I write about this, and it's become very popular on Amazon. I've got a lot of 5-star. It's a sort of a mixture of Gone with the Wind, Hold My Hand, I'm Dying, and Blood Diamonds. If you got a cross-section from those three, that's what it's all. It would actually make a good movie for people who are interested in our genre. And I've often thought of or dreamed about getting it made into a movie. If I win the lottery, I might actually do it myself. I'll get you to come along course as one of the colonels or something. But basically, that's what it's about. I was fortunate enough to witness the repelling of an invasion across the Zambezi River, which was the highlight of my experience there, where a brigade-sized attack was foiled on the river. And it's all mentioned in my book. And so it ends quite sad. It ends with a lot of people, I don't know how they got hold of my email, some through Facebook or whatever, but they asked me, because Marilyn and I, the girl at Vic Falls, we broke up when we left Vic Falls, and it was a very contentious breakup. And a lot of people wrote to me and said, well, what happened after the army? Did you ever see her again? And, you know, what's happened before you went into the army? I'd like to know more about your background. So I thought, over a period of time, well, I need to write that story. And so I wrote my autobiography, which is called What Happened to Friday, and it's my own personal life. It's been slightly harshly critiqued in that it's quite a coming-of-age book where, you know, I explain the delights of young women, but I think it shows my love for the country and the sadness of eventually having to leave there. And so I called that book What Happened to Friday. The reason I called it What Happened to Friday is that because when I was a young boy, 11, 12, my mother and father used to go to the police camp, as we called it, to play bowls and other sports. And my brother and I used to go swimming at the pool there in Salisbury. But running adjacent to this sports facility was a golf course, a privately owned one. And there was only a 4-strand fence between the swimming pool and the golf course. So we used to sneak over onto the golf course to look for golf balls. And the one place that trapped these golf balls was a pond of water with reeds around the edge. And this little African black guy would be sitting there all the time with this look of, oh, gee, I wish I could get in that pool and get all the golf balls, but he couldn't swim. So my brother and I came along. We were excellent swimmers. We weren't scared of going in there. And we went in and we came up with this nest of golf balls, a whole bag of them. Some of them were in darn good condition. And he looked at us rather wistfully and thought, oh, that's, you know, because what he used to do is if he found one in the rough, he would take it back to the clubhouse. And when a person arrived to play golf, he would run up to them and say, you know, he has a golf ball for 50 cents, or something like that. And he was making pocket money. So now we had this big bag of golf balls and we headed up to the clubhouse to sell them. And he tagged along behind us. And we got it, it was maybe $20 or something, which was a huge amount of money in those days. And we got the money and we gave him some of it, and his eyes just lit up. And from that day on, every single weekend when we went there for my mom and dad's sport, he would be there waiting to get his share. Now, his name happened to be Friday, rather curious little name that the Africans came up with. And so over the years, as my innocence sort of started to disappear, and we realized the differences between us, both culturally and everything else, we sort of drifted apart. And then years later, as I grew up, I would think about those happy, idyllic days in the sun. And I asked myself, well, what's happened to Friday? So that's the title of my book. And I go from basically my birth up to my army years, which I summarize from my previous book. And then after that, what I did going overseas and living in Zimbabwe, actually, and having a very successful business where I employed 450 people in a construction company. And so it's about that. I can't say the sales were wild, but, if anybody's interested in reading a book on someone's life, it's there for the taking, available on Amazon. I think it's also in Kindle. Both my first book is in Kindle. And then on the 31st of August, 1981, in a suburb of Johannesburg, I became a Christian. And I had always wondered about spiritual things. I even used to listen to the old guys who came and knock on your door, the Jehovah's, and I'd sit and listen to their stuff until I realized it was a bit off skew. But I became very, very interested in the Bible and spiritual things. And over the years, I noticed that the end time prophecies were happening right in front of our eyes. And I would read up on it, and I would watch Chuck Missler talking, and all these other guys, Derek Prince and all that lot. And I got confused over the whole thing about how the end times are going to unfold, what the prophecies meant, like in the book of Daniel and Zechariah and all this sort of stuff in Revelation. How did they tie in? What was the timeline? Because we all want to know what's going to happen to us when we die one day. And obviously, the Lord is the answer, because he promised us eternal life if we believe in him. So I started to research this timeline of the end times, but books that I read was so complicated, and they would bring in other books and other topics that are so enormous. I just got weighed down in doctrine and everyone's opinions. So I thought, well, the best source of getting the answers for my questions is the Bible itself. And so I went into about a 7-year study of the end times, and eventually I wrote a book giving my point of view on the end times, and it's called the End Times Simplified. I've tried to get all the muck and everything out of the process of understanding it, not making it too convoluted or problematic. And so that's where the word simplified came in. It's the End Times Simplified. It's not a very thick book, because the more you write, the more complicated people, the more complicated it becomes and confuses people. So I've deliberately left it simple, concentrating mainly on the book of Revelation. The fascinating thing about the Bible is that it's mathematically pure. Prophecies made thousands of years ago are coming true, like Isaiah 66:8 said, that Israel would be reborn in a day, which it was on the 14th or 15th of May, 48. They're just, in fact, over 300 prophecies have come true to the day. Not like Nostradamus's 20 or so, which are quatrains, and you can interpret any way you like. The Bible is so specific. And in fact, many anthropologists have become Christians through trying to disprove it. A very well-known lawyer in America tried to disprove it. And he based it on a legal presentation. And in the end, he said it's the real McCoy. It's genuine. And I was just fascinated by all of this, and I wanted to put it down in writing in a book. And so that's called the End Times Simplified. I really don't have a lot else to say about my books unless you have some questions for me, Chris.
Yeah, I have two things I want to mention here. I was want to say to you people, there is a very nice 2-hour episode where we speak specifically about the army days. And I must tell you, the man said he was something good to look at. Damn right, he looked like man like Absalom or Tarzan or something. I don't know what to say. Man looked very good. But I fully understand why he had these beautiful Rhodesian women, I must tell you, were something to look at.
Yes.
That's the one thing I just wanted to say. There is an episode coming. It's going to come out. Don't miss it. We talk a little bit about the books there as well. We have all the links and things in the books. But then the second thing I want to mention is because I have to record Peter Baxter in 2 days from now. And we're going to speak about the weapons we used at 101 Battalion. Now, Peter
Yes.
Baxter is also a Rhodesian officer, and then he came south. Now, I'm trying to explain to you people how big a privilege it was to be a Rhodesian army officer. Peter Baxter came down. He was an officer at a very young age. He was in the Rhodesian African Rifles, wasn't he, Tony? Because he was also in Fighting Men. I can't remember now, but one of the good regiments.
A top unit, yeah.
Yeah, he was in a top unit. And so he came down south and he decided he wants to go to the Special Forces South Africa Rekkies.
Oh, yeah.
Passed the entire selection. And when the last day and he passed and he shook his hand, he says, well, Peter, sorry to say to you, mate, we can't make you an officer, you know, you can be a corporal. He said, if you, in that case, I'm not doing it. I'm an officer, and he walked out.
Good
Now,
Lord.
that shows to you how highly rated it was to be an officer. So, but I have to ask you, how can we get hold of your books?
All of them are available on Amazon. Yeah, the Amazon, A Walk Against the Stream is on Amazon, End Times Simplified, and the other one. Yeah, they're all on there, all three of them. And we'll get the links to you. If you live in a part of the world like South Africa or somewhere else where you can't get Amazon direct, you just get hold of the ISBN number and take it into a reputable bookshop, and they'll order it for you. I think 2 of them are on Kindle. I can't remember which ones I published them in 2007. So yeah, no, it was a wonderful country. It was an honor to be made an officer, even if I was a national service officer. It was a very, very tough course, very selective, and it enabled us to go straight into a regular unit. So it was a privilege. I couldn't believe I passed it, actually. But yeah, and a wonderful country, wonderful days. I can't say enough about it. We weren't perfect by any means, but I love the fortitude and grit of my fellow countrymen and the inventiveness. I see a lot of it in the South Africans as well. I don't think we're very different. And if we couldn't buy something, we'll make it ourselves.
Yeah, that's very true. Just hold on a little bit. I have to rescue the cat.
Okay.
I'm alone here, man. It's just me and cat. Who's called Koefoot Cat. Oh man, I heard it now, but I'm not sure where it is. So I just changed the camera to the courtyard. The infrared will definitely pick it up.
Do you know, talking about cats, up till now, dogs have had to have a chip in them by law. And
Really?
now they're saying cats have to have the chip in them. But Revelation 13:16 says humans are going to have chips in them. So this is all the system of control that's coming in. It's it's going to be a world dictatorship, and this whole transgender thing is part of getting the human race to accept hybridization. We're being hybridized. The next thing, of course, is to be hybridized with machines. One of the reasons for this is that God can only save human beings. So if we are hybridized, half brain, half dog, half leopard, half whatever, we're not a human anymore. So Satan's got a very sneaky plan, and it's manifested in all this ugliness you're seeing in the world at the moment, all the wokeism and the liberalism. It's all part of this Marxist decay that is pushing us into this trap. They want to take away food. Look what's happened to the farmers worldwide. They basically want to knock us off down to 500 million. That's their plan. So, and I'm fascinated that the Bible covers a lot of this. It doesn't use the word woke, but it uses other words that you can only identify as decay and demise of the human moral code. It's just vanishing.
You see, that's what I want to say to you people listening here. Guys, you're all veterans. Most of you are veterans. For most of you, at least, are interested in veterans and war and things like that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this channel or on the channel which Tony is at, Fighting Men of Rhodesia. Fantastic channel. Go and look at it. This is intelligence. May I put it to you in this term? The Bible is giving you a clear picture of what's going to happen in the future. It already happened. Most of the things, it gives you a picture. This is intelligence. It's for you to go and discover that intelligence so you can prepare yourself. Guys, there's no difference between the war which you fought, wherever you fought, and what's going on right now between Satan and God. That war is there. You can laugh at it, but there's no such thing as an atheist in the trenches. I know that. That's why I started the Chaplain's Corner, where I invite all of you. Come and talk to me. Tell me about that time in your life when you thought that you're going to die. Or you thought, man, this is, and the guy next to you gets shot. And then people often have that guilt question. I was, well, why him? Well, come and testify here, because it does mean that God had a purpose for you. I mean, everything. And here you have, if you study the Bible, you will know what's going to happen. You will recognize the sign.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'm fascinated by the wars that are happening in the Middle East at the moment. I mean, who would ever have foreseen Russia and Turkey and Iran forming an alliance? One is Shia, one is Sunni. They hate each other's guts. And here in Ezekiel 38 in the Bible, it's prophesied that they will invade Israel, and it's going to happen very soon. Israel's currently in the Psalm 83 war, which is going to spread into Lebanon and Syria. If it does, then it'll confirm the Psalm 83 war, where the antagonistic people around Israel are going to get really hammered, which is what you're witnessing in the Gaza Strip at the moment. I foresee Damascus being flattened in the near future. I foresee the Israeli F-35s flattening all of the Iranian oil and military things. And the fascinating thing is that's all in the Bible. It tells you, when you really get into it and unlock the scriptures, which are all mathematically pure and interlock with each other from Old to New Testament, it's tomorrow's newspaper. It's more up to date than anything you'll get on the news, which is all biased and corrupted by the Marxist left. Man alive, if you want to read a newspaper for tomorrow, pick up a Bible.
Cannot agree more. Cannot agree more. And I want to say again to you people, gents, ladies, we're going to leave the links below in the description. Go and read it. Don't just send an email or make a little note there. Where can I get the books? Because I'm just going to say to you, look in the description. But really, if needs be, I will refer you to Tony.
Yeah.
Want him to spread the word as far as possible. Also, guys, note that there's an ISBN number. Every book has its own unique number. It's like a DNA print. So if you just type that in, you will get to the links as well, wherever that book is. Now I want to ask you a last question here before we go. When we wrote that book of SW for my mate in one Rekkie, Sierra Whiskey, 10 years in South African Special Forces, he had quite a few ex-girlfriends contacting. And I only know about those who contacted me to give his details to them. But the point is, when you write a book like that, there's always, it's fascinating what comes out of it. So have the books opened some doors for you from the past where perhaps people has come to you and say, oh man, we're glad to see you, and things like that?
Oh yeah, I've had people compliment it, people criticize it. One guy actually put a stop to the sale of my books because his name was in it. I used all real names, all real locations, and you putting your head on a chopping block when you do that. In hindsight, I should have put some pseudonyms in there, but I wanted it to be real, you know, and the language is real, you know, the F's and the blinds and all that sort of stuff, because that's just the way it was, you know.
Okay, thank you, Tony. We appreciate your time, man, and you're always welcome to come back. I say again, guys, look at the description or contact us, and we will help you on your way. And that's it. I always love speaking to fellow authors. And God bless, and may you sell many millions. Like a movie.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you doing this for me. It's makes me feel quite humbled, actually. But bless you, brother. That's all I can say.
God bless, man. God bless.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to receive notifications.